Hello and welcome back. So I hope everyone is finished with their exercise. Uh, I'm going to quickly go over how you needed to do the exercise as a help. So as I said, always start with an empty folder. Exercise. Yeah. Then you need to go into that folder from the console. Yeah. Now once you're in this folder, which is an empty folder, you need to run npm init --, yes. Now, if you don't add this --, yes, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. So that's why I'm adding it. You can, of course, do it without that. So just to show you that it's nothing scary. Now it's going to ask me a bunch of questions like package name, and you can press enter, or you can type to enter something different. So description, lorem ipsum, entry point, test, git, blah, 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 Andre, is it okay? Enter for yes. And that's basically, it gives you the same package.json. So npm init yes is just faster without all these questions. It just takes the defaults there. Okay. Now the idea was to install this npm package. So to do that, you type npm install. You have to be in the correct folder for this to work. And then one-liner joke. Yeah. Now this will take a while, and it will download and install this package. And see, it has no dependency, so it's just that that one folder in here. Now the thing that is missing to the code is const one-liner joke is require one-liner joke. It might be a bit confusing that here I'm using the minus notation. But obviously when I have a variable, I cannot have minus in the name of the variable. So it's a common practice to just write it out like this with camel case. Now, oh, yeah, this file needs to go in here, otherwise this will not work. Yeah. Now, if I write node exercise.js, and I really hope it doesn't come as a bad joke, because this is not gonna be good. Okay, so I get a joke from this module, a random joke. People tend to make rules for others and exceptions for themselves. Yeah, that's very true. I do that all the time. Yeah, so that's the exercise from the previous part. And now we're going to do some more coding. So I hope you're excited. Now, what we're going to do, I told you we're going to build a working web server. Now, to do that, we're not going to write all the code, right? So it's really complicated thing to write a web server from scratch, from zero, right? So writing all these ports and requests and all these complicated things that we need to take care of. We're not gonna don't want to write that every time from zero. So we're gonna use a module that someone else wrote for us that is there just for building web applications. So we are going to get that module and install it, and we're going to use that as a basis on top of which we are going to actually build our application. Now this module is called Express, and it is the most popular module for writing web applications in Node. There are some other modules, of course, for example, HTTP, but for this part at least, we're going to use Express. So just real quick here, I have here what we're going to write, how it's going to look like. Now maybe you're not seeing this, but it says hello world here, top left. And if I go to the request, so I'm going to open the console again, because I want to see the request going back and forth. So I'm going to open it up. So there is only one request going out to this URL. The response is hello world. and content type is HTML, and that's it basically. So this is what we're gonna write. We're gonna write a server that when you send a request to it, it responds with hello world. And this is the most simple application that we can have. So let's go for it. Yeah. So I would really like you to code along with me. It's good for practice. So I'm gonna go a bit slower with this one. Of course, guys, you can always pause to if you need more time to type something. Unfortunately, you're not here in front of me, so I cannot pace myself based on direct feedback. Okay. Anyways, let's start. Let's do this. So make a new folder, Express app, let's call it. Yeah, always with npm start with a new folder. Always, always, always. So I'm gonna navigate to that folder with the console. So I've made a new folder. I'm gonna go into it. Express app. Yeah. Now I'm in that folder. Now, and this should now be ingrained because we're gonna practice this the next 3 weeks. Always, when you want to start writing a new Node app, you do npm init minus minus yes. Always so. Empty folder npm init. Yeah. For every homework you need to do this, so you're gonna practice this like 50 times by end of this course. So you're gonna get bored of it. That's how much you're gonna practice. Now, we said we're gonna use Express, so let's install that. Yeah. And in the meantime, while that's installing, I want to show you the npm.js Express page. This is really useful because it has README, it has how to install it. You can see here how many downloads it has. That's really a lot. And really good here, it has an example code that we can copy paste and use. So this is like a quick starter code for us. Yeah. So I'm not gonna be shy. I'm just gonna grab this code. We're gonna drop it in, and then we're gonna see how it runs. So it is installed. Now I need to make a new file for my code, and I'm gonna call it index.js. I suggest you call it the same. And I'm gonna drop this code in here. Now it's a lot of code, but we're gonna go over it and explain it. So you can do the same, guys. Just go to npmjs.com, uh, search for Express, and then grab the code from the top, copy it, and throw it in a file. So don't type this from scratch, just throw it in there. Yeah. Okay, I hope by this point everybody's done copy pasting. So, okay, so let's break down what's going on here line by line. We're gonna go line by line slowly because there is a lot of things here that's happening in just a few lines of code. First line, we're using npm require to load this module because we're gonna use this module to build our app. Yeah. So this is just loading the module from npm. Now, Express, when you basically what Express exports is a single function which we can call. So it has, and this function, when you call it, it returns what is called an app. Now, an app is a special type of object which has many functions on it that we are going to use. So this is just standard call that you always have with Express because that's how they package their library. Now, so this is not that interesting. What's really interesting is this app thing. So this is, as I said, is an object, a JavaScript object that has a lot of useful functions. Basically, everything that you can do is in here. And one of the most commonly used one is get. which so app.get, this declares a handler which is handling all the requests that come into the app. So when a request comes into the server or to the app, then this function here, which is called a request handler, will be called. Yeah. Now this request handler function. So this is very similar as event handlers for mouse or for clicks. That's why we had the example with the events in the beginning. It has, by definition, it has always two parameters. The first parameter is the request that came in. Now the request might sometimes have some information, for example, who issued the request. Maybe there is some data in the request. And then there is a response. Now the response at the beginning is empty, and it's your responsibility to fill in the response with data and then send it back. Yeah. So again, app.get declares a request handler for your application. Yeah. This request handler takes in a request and returns a response and sends back a response. Sorry, it does not return anything, it just sends back a response. And when I say response.send, I can put in any data here that I want, and this will be sent back to the browser. And one last part is this part here, and this basically defines what URL I am handling with this request handler. So every time when a request comes in, it comes in at a specific URL. All right, we saw that before with Heroku. So for example, it could be that the URL is example.com, right? And HTTP at the beginning. So this is a URL, right? Now you can write, but usually you don't write the slash, but this is the base URL, what's called the base URL, and that's the slash at the end. Now, if there is an image that was to be loaded, this would be, for example, kuva.png, right? Now, a request handler, this request handler is only going to handle requests with this URL. If the URL looks like this, then those requests will not be handled by this request handler. Yeah? So that is defined here based on this character. If I want to handle kuva.png, then here I would need to write kuva.png. Okay. Yeah. So this is a very basic example. In the future, we're gonna work more with the request and more with the response. But for now, so we can send back a hello world. Now this just defines, similar with event listeners, we just define the event listener. Now we need to attach it to the running app, right? So uh, we do that. We say app.listen, and it's basically now really starts up our app and opens the request handler to request. And the only parameter here, which says 3000, is the local port that we're going to use. Now I said that HTTP by default uses port 80, right? But when you're developing a web application running locally on your laptop, uh, you're going to use a different port for your local development because 80 is used for real HTTP communication. So you cannot use that one, obviously. So you can only use ports above a certain number, I think above 1000 while you're developing. And when this app is going to actually be put on a real server, not on your laptop, then someone is going to configure there that it's going to be port 80. Yeah, so just don't be confused. This is just for your local laptop so that we can see it running locally. Okay, so this is the code. Let's see if it runs. So try to run it. Write a node index.js. Ooh, error. That's not very good. Maybe just index? No? Let me figure this out. Okay, I figured it out. So for some reason, my 3000 port was taken by some other application, so I had to change the port. For you, probably it will not be a difference, but it's good to know that errors can happen. So if you get this error, permission denied for this port, try changing the port, and that should have you running. But I don't think you have the port 3000 taken. So now this app is running. It's not printing anything. What it's doing, it's listening for a request to come in from the browser. So let's send it a request. So we're gonna open the browser here. Now I cannot zoom in the address bar, which is a bit unfortunate. But I'm gonna go to localhost. Oh, now I forgot which port I opened. 4005. For you, it will be the port that you defined in your file. 4005. Boom, hello world. Yeah, so that worked. If we open the developer tools, let's do that again. And then you see a request goes out to localhost 4005. Yeah, and you see here the slash at the end. And then the response just says hello world. So that's it. That's the first server side application that you have running right now. I assume there will be also questions for this part. Yeah, there is a lot of things going on in here, and the best way to understand them is by practicing with them. Now, the things that you don't have to really understand, so line 1 and 2, these are always the same. Line 8 will always be the same. The place where you will see changes and where you need to add things is actually lines 4 to 6. So the way you define the request handler defines how your application will run. So this is the most important part for you to understand. Uh, Now I have another small exercise for you, and I'm gonna drop it in here for you. So let me open up a new file. Yeah. So it says the exercise is, so starting with this app, which is now serving only hello world, write an Express app. Instead of serving just hello world, serve this HTML. Yeah, you can copy paste it. If you want, you can put in your other HTML, it doesn't matter, but serve some HTML to the user. Let me close this off. Yeah. So using this hello world as a guide, try to write an Express app that serves this HTML to the user. If you're finished with that and you think it was really easy, you can try adding a style sheet to the app, for example, to make some different colors or something. So it doesn't matter really what you put in the style sheet. The goal is to have an external style sheet loaded that styles this app. So somewhere here there should be, no, sorry, it's here, link, right? Oh man, I don't know my HTML. Let me Google that. Yeah, so add something like this later on to add a style sheet, which should load it from another URL. Yeah. Well, uh, well, try to do this exercise. If there are any questions or problems, then we can go over them on Sunday. But that's the last part of this lecture. Let me quickly see if there is anything that I have missed. Well, I don't see anything. So yeah, I hope this gives you a good idea what we're going to do. So we're going to write more and more complicated applications, like so this is the hello world example of a server application. We're going to add more things to this, make it more fun. in the next 2 weeks.